This is how I took this Nissan 350Z from a knocking piece of crap. That sound is just not good. To a nice running vehicle. Woo! And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Now, hey. So I think I've done what seemed impossible. I've taken this Nissan 350Z and I revived it using a Nissan Murano. Can you believe that? Now we found this 350Z abandoned back in the woods last year. Put a clutch in it and then it had a really bad knock. It turns out it took out our crankshaft and our rod bearing. So after much deliberation, we decided to take a Nissan Murano apart and fix this 350Z using the parts out of that engine. Now the first place we start with this rebuild is the last place we finished, the piston that we need to take out to replace the rod. Now we're going to reuse the piston, which means we're going to take this piston off the rod and then take the rod from the Murano engine. All that work to get that out of there. Put it on this piston and slap it back in the block. First time I've ever installed a piston in a block, and it went a lot smoother than I thought it would. There we go. All right, now we got the piston back in with the new rod on it. And now, here's our new rod that we just replaced with the new rod bearing. Now we gotta install the heart and soul of this motor, the crank. Now this is freshly out of the Murano engine that had about 100 and some thousand miles on it. Even with all the mileage, it looks really clean. We're going to reuse the crank bearings from the Murano engine and put them in this case because that has the same wear that this crank has. So we don't want to fit new bearings on it. It might get too tight and wear out this crank. Although we are going to replace all the rod bearings, lube them up, connect everything back together with our new rod, our new crank, and now we're good to torque everything down, which ironically is the sketchiest part. Now these crank carriage bolts, they gotta be torqued down really tight. Now we're gonna start by torquing them down to about 26 foot-pounds. Then after that, we gotta torque them another 90 degrees. This is called angle torquing. And every time I pull a little harder, I'm afraid I'm either gonna snap the bolt or even worse, strip the threads out in the block. So to do this procedure and to torque the head bolts down, we're going to borrow a friend's torque wrench that is meant for angle torquing, just to make sure we do this right, don't damage anything in the process. Now once we got everything torqued down, we just got to make sure this crank spins nicely, and then we can move on to the head, which is going to be one of the biggest issues with this engine rebuild. So it turns out that the head on the driver's side had an intake cam that was eating itself alive, literally. So as you can see right there, the head has been eaten. It's worn down, and something must have got caught in there. Something, because on the cam, it got wore down too. So, I mean, you could ignore that. You could just let it run. I mean, the cam was turning fine. We didn't have any issues. We got to make it right. If I'd have seen that to begin with, along with the rod and crank damage and everything else we had, I probably would have just been like, all right, we need to buy just another engine now. We have another head here. The problem with this head that we have, and the whole engine that we had out of the Murano, is this is a non-rev-up head. And this is a rev-up head. And all that basically means, fancy words from Nissan, to basically say, we got exhaust variable valve timing as well as intake variable valve timing. But on the rev-up engine, you have a cam sensor for the intake and the exhaust. So we got intake, exhaust, and as you see on this head, there's no reason to pit one because you're never going to use it. Unless you have a 350Z that's broken and you don't have any other options. So what are we going to do to make this head work just like this one? Well, we're going to drill a hole so we could put our cam sensor in there. It's already kind of machined out for us. I don't see any other differences in the head besides that hole being there for the cam sensor. So hopefully we could drill this hole out. We could put the cam sensor in there, then we could drill another hole out and tap the threads for a bolt, and we'll be good to go. Pretty complex stuff, and that's as simple as I can explain it. But basically, we just got to drill a hole in the back of this head so we could put a sensor in it so the computer can read right and the engine won't run stupidly or maybe not run at all. Well, we got a hole in it. Hey!
Now once we drill out the hole and tap the threads for the bolt for the sensor, I'm all but 100% confident that this is going to work and actually work just fine.
That's how you make a head variable valve timing.
That's all we got to do. Now we just bolt it down to the block and torque all these bolts down. Again, this is probably the sketchiest part of the whole procedure. Now these head bolts, they don't get torqued down once, they get torqued down twice on the angle torque, which means instead of torquing them just 90 degrees, we got to torque them 180 once we torque them down to about 30 foot-pounds. So we're going to use a fancy snap-on torque wrench this time because I've never done this work and I don't have these fancy tools. Now that we got everything torqued down, the cams installed, we have to just get this engine in time and make sure it's 100% right. Now this is not a non-interference engine, meaning that if this thing is out of time, the pistons could come up and hit the valves and destroy the entire engine. So it's very important that we get this thing exactly in time to make sure it runs right one and doesn't destroy itself.
Alright, so one final check here on this timing system before we put it all back together and seal it up. So first of all, we want to make sure all of our timing marks are aligned properly. And if you look at the timing cover, the back one here, you'll see that there's a little indentation right there. And that is the timing mark for this cam that has that dot right there. And you can see the chain has a orange covered link where the cams are supposed to go and the crank is supposed to go. So down here on the crank, we have that mark right there on the gear, and that marks where we're supposed to have this orange link, and it's all supposed to be lined up with that dot right there on the pump. Then we also have this tick mark right here on the pump, and that is supposed to line up our keyway. Now you may be saying some of this stuff is misaligned. I've just turned this to tighten everything up so you can see that this chain is a little that way, which makes everything else turn a little bit that way. Regardless, everything is all lined up. Now, one of the hardest things to find information on is these back cam gears and how you're supposed to line those up. And on this particular engine, we had a green dot for our timing mark right there on the gear from factory, and then there's also two little tick marks right there on the front of the cam as well as on the back of the cam, and you can actually see that one a little better, and you see the other one down there, and that lines up those two gold links. And then on the inner side you have another link, and that marks up the other gold one, and that's probably supposed to be about flat with the head when you time everything up, and everything's about on top dead center. And this is the rev up motor, and you could tell because it's got variable valve timing on the exhaust, magnetic variable valve timing, which is kind of interesting. All right, so now we're going to reseal the back of the motor up, the front of the motor up, and put the intake on, the valve covers on, and get this thing ready to go back in the car.
Now we got the timing all set. We're ready to do everything we got to do to make sure this engine holds oil and is sealed up. Now the oil pan doesn't have a gasket, just uses silicone, which is a big mess until we get it all together, and then it actually seals pretty well. The timing cover is the same, which again I don't love because it can make a huge mess, but once you do get it all back together and it's dry, it technically does hold better than an old gasket. We also put a new front crank seal and a new rear main seal in this thing to make sure it holds oil and this rod bearing never goes bad again. With the engine sealed up tight where we know no liquid is ever going to come out of it, we're ready to install this thing and hook everything up. The install goes pretty easy. We just drop it right down in, line the mounts up, and bolt them down. Now we got to hook everything back up exactly the way it was before, and this is the tricky part because this was about 4 weeks ago when I took this engine out, and I've done a whole lot of work between now and then, so it's kind of hard to remember exactly where every plug goes or even which way the wiring harness goes. Eventually, I think I got it figured out, but I want to be 100% sure, so I rigged the starter up to bolt up, and I see if we can get this thing started.
All right, guys, we got oil in it and we got coolant in it. We got everything hooked up except for the transmission. And it's not that big of a deal because the starter will bolt up to the engine block, so we can go ahead and start this thing and make sure everything's working. All the hard work we've done is going to be okay before we put the trans in. This is called confirming your fixes. So we're going to start it, make sure it cranks over, make sure it runs. We probably won't run it for that long, maybe a couple seconds at most.
And unfortunately, the worst thing possible happened. Well, I guess not the worst thing possible, but it didn't start.
After hours of deliberating and trying to figure out what was wrong, we figured it out. Now, I'll show you in a minute, but first, I want you to hear it. Exhaust is really loud, but you can't hear any knocking, which is great. The engine sounds great. Let me show you what was wrong. If that would have happened 8 hours earlier, I'd have saved myself a whole entire day. You see, I got the dang compression tester out. I got everything out, man. We done wore the battery down. We got a jump box on it. But we got it running. Now let's raise it up and I'll show you what was wrong. So in case if you have a VK35 that you install an engine on, and you don't know why it won't start, it's not giving you any codes. It's just nothing. So under here is the 7th level of hell, aka the underside of my Nissan 350Z, and I've been under here all day, messing around with cam sensors, fuel lines, everything else to try to get this thing to run. I even put the cats in here and hooked the O2s up because I thought that might have something to do with it. It didn't. We messed around with the crank sensor, put a new one of those on, didn't fix it. Now, the problem is these cam sensors up here. And you know, I machined that head to get that one in, but the problem is if you look over here on bank 1, which is over here on the passenger side, which is bank 1, you see a green cam connector up there, and you can't really see it, but there's a black one back under there. Now, I had it plugged in with the grassy, I thought green was intake valve, variable valve timing, right? So I put the green sensor on the intake side on this side, and I had the black sensor over there, and it's just the same way as this bank, and I thought that's the way they plugged up, and that was the issue. So all day long it was reading backwards on this, like this timing was out, and I knew the timing was correct. I spent an hour on it with the engine on the stand, so I knew the timing was right.
And there it is, the engine's roaring. It's back together and it doesn't knock at all. It sounds really good actually. Now all we got left to do is install the transmission so we could finally drive this thing down the road. And that's a little easier said than done. Of course, this transmission install looks easy, but at first the transmission just didn't want to go in the pilot bushing. So we had to order a new one up from our good friend O'Reilly's, and once we installed it, this shaft slid right in just with a little bit of force. Now we can install the exhaust, the drive shaft, set this thing down, and finally take it for a test drive. And I know this is the moment you've all been waiting for, and I've been waiting for it, actually more than you.
And I'll be honest, I've never been this excited to drive a Nissan, because this is the first engine I've ever had completely apart, completely back together, and it's exciting to do, you know? Listen to that. All right, now it's time for the first test drive. This thing shifts nice, and you know, hey, that's how you do it, guys. So after a lot of months of work and a lot of time and a little bit of money, a whole lot of labor, we finally got this thing where listen to that.
Until the next time I find 2 junk cars in my lot and decide to pit them together because I'm tired of looking at them, make sure you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm now new to TikTok. You can also follow me on Patreon if you want to support me financially or if you want to see any behind the scenes content. And always remember, you can email me at justcallmeeddie1 if you ever want to buy any of my cars or if you have any car questions about any of your own projects that you're doing. Thanks for watching, and as always, make sure you work hard, make sure you play hard, and most importantly, make sure you stay dirty. You can just call me Eddie.